ולא יקרא לבן עם בת, וינצחם כמו בבת, נעים שמכם ולא יושבת, שבו בנוחו ביום שבת. דרוש נביא לעולמי, ועוד ישעשה עמי, נטע זורק בתוך כרמי, שאשבת בני עמי. דרו יקרא לבן עם בת, וינצחם כמו בבת, נעים שמכם ולא יושבת, שבו בנוחו ביום שבת. דרו יקרא לבן עם בת, וינצחם כמו בבת, נעים שמכם ולא יושבת, שבו בנוחו ביום שבת.
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom umevorach. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom umevorach. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom umevorach. In the richer sections of Rovshitz, the town in which Rebbe Naftali was the Rebbe, it was common for householders to hire night watchmen to guard their properties. One evening, the Rebbe went for a walk in the forest and returned to town through the neighborhood of the well-to-do. The watchman saw him coming through the forest and asked him to stop. He didn't recognize the rabbi. "Who are you?" said. The rabbi said, "I'm the rabbi." And when the watchman noticed him, asked him, "What are you doing here, rabbi?" "I'm just walking in the forest." The rabbi asked, "For whom do you work?" The watchman told him. Then he asked the Rebbe the exact same question. "And for whom are you working this evening, Rebbe?" The question hit Reb Naftali like a fist in his stomach. He stepped back and paced and two, and then stammered, I'm not working for anyone at the moment." The Rebbe then began to pace back and forth under the gaslight. Suddenly, he stopped, turned to the watchman and said, "I would like to hire you." "Me?" the man said. "I'm a watchman. I know nothing of Rebbes and their masters and their matters. I protect what matters to my master. What could I possibly do for you?" "The very same," Reb Naftali said. "What matters to me is my soul, and to protect it, I must work for God. But what would my job be?" "To remind me," said the Rebbe, "to remind me. Shabbat is here to to remind us of the work that we are supposed to do, to remind us that we are the keepers of our own souls, and that our souls need this special time to recharge and reconnect. As we will light the Shabbat candles tonight, I invite all of us to seek for the light that is within and to find the work that each of us needs to do. We're on page 120 for Adlakat Nerot.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Turn our Sidurim to page 130 for Psalm 95. Lechu nerana laAdonai.
Lechu nerana laAdonai nariya letzur Ishenu nekadma fanav betoda bizmirot nariya lo nekadma fanav betoda bizmirot nariya lo shiru l'Adonai shir chadash shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz shiru l'Adonai baruchu shema basro miyom leyom yeshuato sapru v'goyim kvodo v'chol ha'amim leotav yalai 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 yalai
שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ. ישמחו השמיים בתגל הארץ. אדוני מלך תגל הארץ, ישמחו עם רבים. אור זרוע לצדיק. A light is shown to the righteous, to the one that engages in the search for righteousness, to the one that in that search finds within her heart joy, simcha. Mizmor Shir L'Adonai, Shir Chadash, we sing a psalm in which we acknowledge the wonders of the world, the wonders in our lives. Each one of these psalms, each melody is here to help us access this stairway that will eventually guide us through the access, the gate of entering Shabbat. It's a different experience, a different time. We try to become aware of the wonders, the beauty in our lives. As we turn our Siurim to page 134 for Psalm. Which Psalm is this?
98?
For Psalm 98, Samru Adonai.
Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra, b'chatzotzrot v'kol shofar, hariu לפני המלך אדוני. ירם הים ומלואו, תבל ויושבי בה, הידי נהרות, עמך אף יחד, הרים ירננו, לפני
אדוני כי בא לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט דבר בצדק, בימים ובישרים. ירם הים ומלואו, תבל ביושבי בה, הידי נהרות, עמך אף יחד, הרים ירננו, אף יחד, הרים ירננו. Seven days of the week, 7 Psalms. In front of each of them, a reminder that we are a part of the creation and that we are also co-creators. As we enter this Shabbat, we seek for that light that is around us and within us. So we turn our Sidurim to page 136. Mizmor LeDavid, Psalm 29.
Mizmor LeDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei elim. Mizmor LeDavid, havu l'Adonai kavod ba'oz. Havu l'Adonai kavod ba'oz. Havu l'Adonai kavod shemo. Havu l'Adonai kavod ba'oz. Havu l'Adonai kavod shemo. Mizmor LeDavid, havu l'Adonai elim. Mizmor LeDavid,
כבוד שמו. לאדוני כבוד רב. לאדוני כבוד שמו. לאדוני כבוד רב. יאי די. יאי די די די. לבוא ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו השלום. אדוני יוס, לבוא ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו השלום. היי, 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 לאמור ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. We compare Shabbat with a bride and welcoming Shabbat with the most loving situation. And to some extent, that's what Shabbat is all about. Shabbat is about falling in love with the things that become a part of our routine, and we lack the ability to recognize. It's about observing their creation and our creations, and taking a moment to contemplate them with an open heart. So as we turn our Sidurim to page 138 for Lechadodi, we work on opening our hearts to welcome Shabbat and to fall once again in love with our lives.
לחדותי לקראת קלי, יללה 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 בני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת קלי, יללה 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 בני שבת נקבלה. שמות וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לחדותי לקראת קלי, בני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת קלי, בני שבת נקבלה.
לקראת שבת לכו ונחה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. היי די די לחדותי לקראת קלי, בני שבת נקבלה. לחדותי לקראת קלי, בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, די, די,
לחדורי לקראת כלה, משבת נקלה, לחדורי לקראת כלה, משבת נקלה.
לא תהושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, ויחסו אני אהמי בני מתה עירלתי לי, די די לחדורי לקראת כלה, משבת נקלה, לחדורי לקראת כלה, משבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לחדורי לקראת כלה, משבת נקלה, לחדורי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It is such a joy to welcome Shabbat in community. It is such a joy to see the faces of those that are connecting with us in Zoom and the comments of those that are emerging in social media, in Facebook and in YouTube. Shabbat Shalom to Andy, Shabbat Shalom to Gabriel, Shabbat Shalom to Aiden that are here. It's always beautiful to share Shabbat with you. And as we have welcomed Shabbat and we have welcomed each other, together we will turn our Sidurim to page 140 as we dedicate to Shabbat one more song, one more psalm, Psalm 92, Mizmor Shir Leyom HaShabbat.
טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר ולזמר לשמך אלוהים. טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני,
אוי
להגיד בבוקר חסדך, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, ואמונתך בלילות, טוב להודות לאדוני,
אוי
להגיד בבוקר חסדך,
אוי להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, ואמונתך בלילות, טוב להודות לאדוני, אוי להגיד
בבוקר חסדך,
להגיד בבוקר חסדך, אמונתך בלילות, אמונתך בלילות, טוב להודות לאדוני. דלי 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 Page 144.
יתגדל ויתגדל שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי תקודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן מעלמה, אמרו אמן.
We invite you to rise and to turn your Sidurim to page 146 for Baruch.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time, and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. ומעביר יום ומהביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב על הרבים. Everlasting love you offer your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lay down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Beloved God, please never, never remove from us the perception of your love, the knowledge that we are loved. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, forevermore. Israel. We're on page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. We continue with the chanting of V'ahavta, which is unaccompanied on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Continue with the silent reading over page 156.
Don't you know?
מלכותו ורצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לך ענו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם. When your children witness your presence, they praise your name in gratitude and they accepted your sovereignty. Moshe, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices with joy. We're on page 158 for Birkat HaGeulah, the blessing for redemption.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מלכותך ראו בניך בוקר הים לפני משה ומרים.
From this place of liberation, of redemption, is that we seek to be builders of Shalom, builders of peace. We recognize that we are surrounded by challenges, by obstacles. as we also recognize that we are surrounded by love and wonders, and that we have the ability to be builders of the peace, of the shalom, of the calm that we want to experience. We turn our Sidurim to page 160 for Ashkivenu.
Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ufros aleinu Sukkot shlomecha v'tanenu v'etzah tov milefanecha. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. U'shmo tzedenu uvoreinu lechaim u'leshalom ve'ata ve'adolam. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom v'hamidenu shomreinu
For you, God,
lechaim.
watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Blessed are you, Adonai, Guardian of Israel. Shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over the holy city of Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai. Apore Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, al kol amo Israel ve'al Jerusalem. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Shamru b'nei Israel et Shabbat. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat through the ages as a covenant for all time. It is a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from work, and Shabbat by Nafash, and Shabbat received its very own soul. We turn our Sidurim to page 164 for Tfilat Amidah, for what perhaps is the most important section of our service. The Amidah is at the center because as we stand up, as we rise up for Amidah, we ask to be uplifted. We ask to reconnect with our needs, to recognize our needs, our desires, our yearnings, and to give them real and loving space in our lives. I invite you to turn toward Jerusalem, and as we look toward our eternal capital, the symbol of our center. We search for our internal center. Adonai, שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. When I open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. The words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, באמרו אמן. The one who makes peace in the high heavens, make peace for us, for all Israel, and for all who inhabit the earth. And let us say,
Amen.
we'll now turn our Siddurim to page 371 as we direct our hearts toward those experiencing illness or those that are in need of healing of the body, healing of the soul. We think of those dealing with addictions. We dive in together, Mishaberach. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, to all of you, to all of us, רפואה שלמה והחלמה מהירה, a complete and a full and a speedy recovery. Let us say,
Amen.
Amen. Shabbos, Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So, as it became our custom, I will check before I start sharing the Parsha. Can you hear me well? Terrific. So, nothing to say. So, anyway, actually, this Torah portion is one of the most beautiful ones in the entire Torah. 53. 53. That's the number of rules that we will find in this Torah portion. Be'ele amishpatim asher tasim lefaneihem. These are the rules that you shall set before them. Now, most of these rules fall into the exegetic category of mitzvot shebein adam lechavero, meaning rules that address the interactions between human beings. These mishpatim, laws, will expand on personal freedom, criminal assault, damages, theft, liabilities, expectations for moral behaviors, lending money, judicial procedures, and many, many more. Now, I would like to explore with you 2 out of these 53 mitzvot, which I believe showcase a common topic of the mitzvot in this parsha in particular, and I would venture and say that this is also true, this common topic is also true for the entire Torah. In Exodus chapter 21, verse 24, we read, Ain tachat ain, shen tachat shen, yad tachat yad, regel tachat regel. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Now, if you are not an eye surgeon or a dentist, anything that includes pulling out eyes or teeth and teeth sounds pretty barbaric. However, the idea of an eye for an eye, even when it doesn't sound great, is the opposite of an uncivilized approach to justice. This idea is the foundation of what we know today as judicial proportionality, establishing a proportional relation between crime and punishment. The idea recognizes that when hurting or while affected by a crime, we can lose track of our reactions, meaning that we might have a tendency to overreact. Therefore, there is a need for a measure and a system that will contain and eventually restrain our reactions. The other mitzvah that I wanted to explore with you is in Exodus 22:27. Elohim lo tekalel, v'nasi be'amcha lo ta'or. You shall not revile God. We'll talk about the word God in this context. Nor put a curse upon a chieftain, a president among your people. While the word Elohim is most often used to refer to God, in this case, it refers to a judge. So this pasuk, this verse, is basically saying, don't curse your judges and your president. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't say for the presidents not to curse reporters. as we saw last week by the current president, and several times in the previous administration. I do give credit to the current president for later calling the reporter and apologizing, but there is a big idea standing behind "you shall not curse the judge and the president," and we should add the press. You shall not curse the press. The same system that protects our personal and social well-being can sometimes be really, really challenging and even annoying. We can criticize it. We can advocate for change, as we will later see in the Torah, but we cannot destroy it or curse it, even when we feel really tempted. We ought to hold back. It is not a coincidence that many of the mitzvot that deal with human interactions focus on the exercise of restraint. Restraint of how we take benefit of situations and interactions. Restraint of our behavior when we are in a position of privilege, whatever that position might be. And yes, the restraint of our reactions. Now, is restraint itself a moral aspiration? I don't think so. However, restraint serves as a fence that prevents us from falling into the vilification of the other, of falling into self-entitlement and brutality, and the list goes on and on. So restraint and the mitzvot in this case are not our moral aspiration, but rather what prevents us from going and from growing too far from it. With this understanding, a better question would be, how do we get closer to a behavior that matches our moral aspirations? Paradoxically, Torah presents here a chicken and egg kind of situation. Our parsha starts by saying, "These are the laws that you shall put before them." Considering the fact that we are in the middle of the book of Exodus, the second book of the Torah, the rabbis wonder about the word before. What happened before? If only in the middle of the book of Exodus we are getting the Torah. In the Gemara, we learn that the idea that derech eretz kadma la Torah, literally, the path of the earth, derech eretz, kadma la Torah, preceded the Torah. Thus indicating at least that the law is a later development. In the Midrash, we learn the story of Rabbi Yanai, who was once walking along the road and saw a man who was extremely well-dressed. Rabbi Yanai said to him, "Would you like to come over to my house?" The man replied, "Yes." Rabbi Yanai brought him into his home and gave him food and drink. As they were eating and drinking together, he examined him in his knowledge of Tanakh, Bible, and found out that the man had none. Examined him in Mishnah and realized that he did not know any Mishnah. So he checked him on the legends in the Agadot, he checked him on Talmud, and he realized that this man had no knowledge on any of those. Rabbi Yanai then told him, "Wash wash your hands, and recite grace, Birkat HaMazon. Said the guest, let the Yanai recite grace in his own home. Seeing that he could not even recite a blessing, Yanai told him, can you at least repeat what I say? Say he, yes. Said Rabbi Yanai, repeat the following. A dog has eaten Yanai's bread. Offended, the man stood up and grabbed Rabbi Yanai by the coat. He then said, my inheritance is with you, and you are withholding it from me. Said Rabbi Yanai with puzzlement, what legacy of yours is there with me? He replied, once I passed by a school, and I heard the voices of the little children saying, Moshe gave us Torah. Moses gave us Torah, the inheritance of the congregation of Jacob. They did not say the inheritance of the congregation of Yanai, but the congregation of Jacob, of Jacob. Rabbi Yanai asked, how then are you worthy to eat at my table? The guest replied, never have I heard an evil word spoken against me and returned to argue with the person who spoke it. Never have I seen two people arguing without making peace between them. Rabbi Yanai then said, you have so much derech eretz, and I called you a dog. On him, Rabbi Yanai said, the verse, and there is a path from the Psalms, meaning not one, but two paths take you to salvation. Since Rabbi Ishmael, son of Rabbi Nachman, said, derech eretz preceded Torah. The path of the earth came before Torah, exactly 26 generations earlier. This is a midrash from a book called Vaikra Rabbah. This story beautifully explains that knowing and following the law without the right mindset that we would call, in this case, the path of the earth, derech eretz, the fulfillment of the law without the right mindset has very, very diminished value. So we could stop here and say, intention precedes behavior, and if you have the right intentions or mindset, you will find a path to good behavior. But as the popular proverb says, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And again, along with the centrality of action, the Torah says, no, you need to do. The intention is not good enough. The Torah adds and seals Parashat Mishpatim and its long list of laws with the emblematic phrase, Na'aseh benishma. Na'aseh benishma is often translated as, we will faithfully do. But I think we should read it a bit more literally. Na'aseh, we will do, we will follow these laws, even if we struggle, and nishma. The word nishma shares its root with the word shema. Listen. Awareness is born in the act of listening. And so, I read them in that order. We will do action, and those actions will precede and hopefully lead to awareness. So, Here is the chicken and egg situation. On the one hand, Derech Eretz, the path of the earth, preceded the Torah. But on the other hand, engaging in Torah's commandments brings us to the awareness that leads to the mindset of Derech Eretz, of having a gentle, a nice, a kind existence. I think that Torah understands that even when it is a mitzvah to live besimcha, with joy, life is indeed a challenging experience. Each generation deals with its own challenges. And we are dealing with ours, and they are quite overwhelming. We are triggered by so many things. The Russians on the Ukrainian border, our political divisiveness, the use of masks, the lack of the use of masks, the Omicron, the fact that our life routine has dramatically changed over the last 2 years, and the list, and you know that very well, goes on and on. I think that Torah understands that when we feel overwhelmed and powerless, we go into survival mode, and we just try to make it through. And at that moment, in that moment in which we go into survival mode and we just try to make it through, is when we start to grow apart from the path of the earth, from Derech Eretz. That's the place for Bechai Baem, as it is written in Leviticus, to let the mitzvot give us a structure, help us remain close to our core and find renewed life in times of despair. We shift from recognizing what's wrong in the environment toward reflecting on how I can do and become an agent of good. We reflect on where we have been inconsiderate, abusive, and harmful. We explore what are the places in which each of us needs to exercise restraint. How often do we think about our own restraint, about stepping back, about limiting ourselves, as opposed to sharing our reactions with the rest of the world? So we stop and we try to exercise restraint. We can't transition from feeling powerless beings trying to survive in a messy world to recognizing that with Derech Eretz, with the path of the earth, with a gentle walk, we have the power to shape the world. And so we would ask, where do we start? Be'ele hamishpatim. These are the rules, says the Torah. One mitzvah at a time. Shabbat Shalom Mevorach. We'll continue our service on page 588. Ve'ashebota el levavecha. Ve'ashebota.
Ve'ashevota.
El levavecha.
El levavecha.
Ki Adonai.
Ki Adonai.
Hu Elohim.
Hu Elohim.
Ve'ashevota.
Ve'ashevota.
אל לבביך,
אל לבביך,
כי אדוני
כי אדוני
הוא האלוהים,
הוא האלוהים,
ונאמר,
והיה אדוני
למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד. We now take a moment to acknowledge mourners among our community. We acknowledge those during the cycle of the first 7 days of mourning Shiva. We acknowledge those during the cycle of the first 30 days of mourning Shloshim, and so those during the cycle of the first year. We of course think of those that have a yahrzeit this week, the anniversary of someone's passing by this time of the year in years past. We invite you to share the names of your beloved ones in the comment section on YouTube and Facebook. We won't be able to attend those comments right now, and if you're in Zoom, of course, we encourage you to share the names as well. The Achenburg family.
Those were the Misha Baruch names.
So okay.
Marcus.
Rita Silverstein, Jean Domins, Arnold Landau, Isaac Ben Shoshana. Now you can support our fellows who are standing or sitting. Join us with your voices or your hearts for Kaddish Avelim Mourners Kaddish on page 598. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
בעלמא דברה חירותי, בהמליך מלכותי. בחייכון ומכון, וחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, באמרו,
אמן.
יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמיה, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה,
ברכו.
לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירם בעלמא, באמרו אמן. יהא שנמה רבה מן שמיה, בחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, באמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, באמרו אמן. May the memories of your beloved ones, of our beloved ones, be always a blessing in our lives. יהיה זכרם ברוך. May be seated. Announcements. Two quick announcements. This is the time of the year in which we are already working on the Purim spiel. It is exciting, and tomorrow I think is the first or the second rehearsal.
Third.
Tomorrow there is a rehearsal, and I hear several of our kids on Wednesday, and my own children are so excited. So it's nice to see how the cycle of the year goes. In addition, on the 19th, we will be celebrating Elena's birthday, 80th birthday. So if you haven't RSVP'd, we encourage you to do so. Several of the components of that celebration will be hybrid, so people will be able to join us online. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten to the place in which we can send food for printing, but I think we will soon be able to do so. So maybe one day we can share our lunch and learn or the variety of experiences we have here at TVT virtually. With all that said, we are going to turn our Sirim to page 122 for Kiddush. So if you have a Kiddush cup, this is your opportunity to take it, prepare it, as we will do Kiddush together. בערב ויבוקר יום השישי, ויחול השמיים בארץ בכל צבעם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי חבריי וחברותיי,
לחיים.
לחיים ולפול, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו בשבת קודשו, באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, עם כל העמים, בשבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. חיים לחיים. And I think we will conclude our service today in this
178.
in these crazy days, in these days of so much confusion. I think we all need some doses of peace, of internal peace, and also of the peace that happens between nations. So we will conclude with the words of Shalom Rav. May we are supporters, creators of that peace. Shalom Rav,
על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב, על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב, על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב, על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. בטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשומרך. שלום רב, על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב, על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם.
God give us the ability to find within our hearts the connection to our souls, to make our path through life in a gentle way, in a loving way, understanding our shortcomings, understanding that we always have the ability to better ourselves and to be builders of your peace, of your shalom, to be carriers of blessings, the blessings that we receive and the blessings that we share. As we think of the many blessings we have in our lives, we acknowledge our children, we acknowledge those that we love. As we say, Yasimchem Elohim, Kefraim, Kemenashe, Kesara, Rivka, Rachel, Belea. May God inspire you to be like the loving fathers and mothers of Israel. Yevrechachem Adonai beish merechem. May God bless you and protect you. Yair Adonai panav elechem bichunekem. May God's light shine upon you and may God be gracious to you. Isa Adonai panav elechem. May you find within you always God's presence. And may God bless you with its most wonderful gift, the gift of Shalom, of peace. Adonai עוש לעמיו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom ומבורך.
Shalom ra'ah על ישראל עמך, שים לעולם.
Shalom ra'ah על ישראל עמך, שים לעולם. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. כי אתה הוא מלך הדור,
לכל השלום, כי אתה הוא מלך הדור, לכל השלום.
Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.